What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the debut of Final Fantasy VI's Strago, who's going to be going live soon in Global Opera Omnia. But before we talk about Strago, guys, if you enjoy what you're seeing on this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you guys are not missing out on any future uploads. And if you guys find the content on my channel very useful and helpful, please be sure to hit that like button. It does help me out, and also share this video to your friends and family that enjoy Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So Final Fantasy VI's Strago is going to be making his debut. We're going to be taking a look at his entire full kit and what all of the different weapon passives do for him. We're also going to be talking about RELM, because RELM is going to be getting a rework on top of her EX realization, so we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to take a look at the banner and what my overall thoughts about it are, and we're also going to talk about the Chaos difficulty boss fight against a boss called Fierce. And let's not forget, we are going to be doing that Let's Play for both Strago and RELM, so then that way you guys have a visual on how these characters work and how you should be playing them and things like that. Now, before we move forward with the video, as always, I want to give a big thanks to Rem and the Dissidia DB, because all of the information that comes from this video is directly from his website. Be sure to check that out in the video description, as well as the pinned comments. Also, don't forget to check out MacNull and the Dissidia Info, another fantastic website resource for Opera Omnia, as well as to the Opera Omnia tracker, allowing us to track our progress in the game. Also, thank you to the Tonberry Troop for the amount of time and effort that they take to create those lovely infographics summarizing what these characters do, as well as to the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles podcast, giving us a weekly podcast to feed our Opera Omnia needs. And last but not least, thank you again to all of the lovely DFFOO content creators and streamers out there. You guys are keeping this community strong and consistently growing it and helping all of these players. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the Strago event. Strago enters the world of Opera Omnia as a powerful magic damage dealer capable of triggering his hard-hitting spells twice with his unique buff, Soul of Thamasa. Let's begin by taking a look at the unique buffs his full kit brings. Strago's first unique buff is called Descendant of the Magi, which increases his own max brave and attack. His second unique buff is called Soul of Thamasa, which increases his own attack and allows his HP attack command variants, Skill 1, Skill 2, EX skill, and LD skill to trigger twice while active. His last unique buff is called Regained Hope, which increases his own attack and Brave Overflow. While Descendant of the Magi is active, Strago gains access to his Brave Attack++, which is a 6-hit, non-elemental magic single-target Brave Attack, and his HP Attack++, which is a 3-hit, non-elemental magic single-target Brave plus single-target HP Attack with a 120% Brave Overflow. While Soul of Thamasa is active, Strago's HP attack changes into Chain Spell, which is a 4-hit, non-elemental magic, single-target Brave plus single-target HP attack that triggers twice, self-Brave heals by 30% of the HP damage dealt by the first HP damage dealt, and has a 120% Brave Overflow. His C65 ability is called Set Soul of Thamasa, which has 3 total uses, grants Soul of Thamasa for 2 turns, and increases his own attack by 3 turns. Strago's most noteworthy passives are as follows. C50 passive, Aged Mage of Thamasa, increases his own max brave and attack while Descendant of the Magi is active. C54 passive, increases his own max brave and speed while buffed. C58 passive, increases his max brave and attack while buffed. And finally, C68 passive, permanently increasing his own max brave. Skill-wise, Strago has access to his Skill 1 Quasar and his Skill 2 Brave to Death. Quasar has 6 total uses and is a 6-hit, non-elemental magic, AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack that ignores defense, deals 100% AoE HP damage, and grants Descendant of the Magi for 6 turns. If Soul of Thamasa is active, Quasar will trigger twice, with the break bonus only collected once per usage. His Skill 2, Brave to Death, has 4 total uses that instantly breaks enemy targets with an even number Brave amount, and then delivers a 4-hit, non-elemental magic, AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with 120% Brave Overflow Overflow, split HP damage, grants Descendant of the Magi for 6 turns, grants Soul of Thamasa for 2 turns if he breaks a target or attacks a broken target, and will trigger twice if Soul of Thamasa was already active. Just like his first skill, the break bonus is only collected once per usage. Strago's EX weapon at full limit break and prior to its realization grants him access to his EX skill Saber Soul, which has a slightly slow recast speed. This skill delivers a 5-hit non-elemental magic AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 120% Brave Overflow, split HP damage, and grants Soul of Thamasa for 2 turns. This will trigger twice if Soul of Thamasa was already active and can only collect the break bonus once per usage. Upon realizing his EX weapon, Strago is granted the following upgrades: 0 out of 3 improved Saber Soul with an increased Brave Potency, increased Brave Overflow, and now grants Regained Hope for 6 turns. 1 out of 3 permanently increases his max Brave and attack. 2 out of 3 allows Strago to start the quest with both Descendant of the Magi and Reclaim Hope for 6 turns. Finally, 3 out of 3 further improves Saber Soul with increased Brave hits to 8, increased Brave Potency, and increased Brave Overflow. The A-type sphere unlocked from this EX weapon is called Critical Attack Advanced Long, which increases attack and Brave Overflow by 5% for 6 turns when dealing a critical hit. Lastly, let's take a look at Strago's LD weapon. His LD weapon at full limit break permanently raises his attack and grants him access to the LD skill called Grand Delta, which has 4 total uses. Grand Delta breaks all enemies and will cancel break and inflict on already broken targets, and then delivers an 8-hit non-elemental magic AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 120% Brave Overflow, deals 100% AoE HP damage, grants Soul of Thamasa for 2 turns, and will grant him a free skill usage to his Skill 1, Skill 2, and C65 ability on his next turn. This skill will trigger twice if Soul of Thamasa is already active. Recommended artifact passes for Strago are 3 copies of Attack plus 108 and 3 copies of Age Mage of Thamasa up 2-star to ensure that he has maximum damage capabilities. RELM receives a rework and an EX realization with Strago's event. Her C58 passive increases the party's max Brave and attack by a larger amount while buffed compared to before. Her Skill 1, Sketch Summon, gains 2 additional uses, increased Brave damage, and now deals a 4-hit AoE Magic Brave attack before the HP attack. Her Skill 2 Sketch and its plus variant gains another 2 uses, heals the party's Brave based on max Brave before the Brave hits, increase Brave hits to 5, increase Brave damage, and 150% Brave Overflow. Her returning EX weapon can now be realized, granting her the following upgrades. 0 out of 3 improves her EX skill Star Prism with increased Brave damage against targets afflicted with a Sketch debuff, increased Brave Overflow, and heals her own Brave based on the HP damage dealt. 1 out of 3 permanently increases her max Brave and attack. 2 out of 3 increases Star Prism's recast speed to slightly fast, allows RELM to start the quest with max Brave up, speed up, and attack up for 6 turns, and automatically inflicts Sketch on all enemies for 2 turns at the start of each wave. Finally, 3 out of 3 improves Star Prism, allowing it to deliver a 12-hit non-elemental magic AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack triggered twice with increased Brave damage and increased Brave Overflow. She also gains access to her Brave Attack plus, which heals the party's Brave based on max Brave before the Brave hits, and then delivers a 2-hit non-elemental magic single-target Brave attack with an increased Brave damage against a Sketch-inflicted target, and extends her own buffs by 1 turn. Lastly, she will also gain access to her HP Attack plus, which heals the party's Brave based on max Brave before the Brave hits, and then delivers a 2-hit non-elemental magic single-target Brave plus single-target HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a Sketch-inflicted target, 120% Brave Overflow, extends her own buffs by 1 turn, and lowers action delay. The E-type sphere unlocked from this EX weapon is called Weak Guard Down, which lowers a target's defense for 3 turns when hitting their weakness. Recommended artifact passes for RELM post her rework and EX realization are 3 copies of Attack plus 108 and 3 copies of Future Master Artist Boost 2-star to fully maximize her damage output. Alright guys, now that we have gone ahead and taken a look at what Strago brings to the table, and also Realm's rework and EX realization, what are my thoughts on these two characters? Let's go ahead and take a look at Strago first. So Strago honestly is going to be a character that I feel may be underestimated just because we know that there's going to be other banners coming out that have a lot more hype behind them or have a lot more powerful characters, because that is the nature of gacha games. But if you take a look at what he can do, he has a lot of brave hits on all of his skills across the board, right? And also they can trigger twice with that Soul of Thamasa buff that he has, and he also has ways to auto break targets. With his skill 2, he auto breaks them if they are at an even number of brave amount, and then with his LD ability, he auto breaks them, and if they're already broken, he just resets their break and breaks them again. So this character has a lot of flexibility. To top it off, he is a non-elemental magic damage dealer, so he is very easy to slot in, and as far as team compositions go, if you need somebody that just hits hard and his role is to do damage. So Strago is actually really, really good. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've taken him to a few Lufenias on my JP account. One Lufenia where he was actually really, really particularly useful for was the Kirin Lost Chapters Lufenia, because there's going to be a phase in that Lufenia where the boss gains this aura where they're going to take 1 brave damage, and they're also going to have a massive brave amount, and the only way to break them out of it is to break them. And Strago has ways to auto break. So Strago was great for that. He's also great for all of the other fights where bosses have mechanics where they like to increase their brave by a huge amount, and if you're unsure whether or not you could brave shave them down, Strago is there to fulfill that role, and to top it off, he deals a ton of damage. Now I will be honest with you, he is really selfish. This grandpa is really, really selfish. If you take a look at all of his buffs, his passives, there's nothing that he really provides to your party. So very selfish, but the thing is that you got to look at it this way now when it comes to damage dealers. As we start approaching Lufenia, a theme with Lufenia is going to be brave damage reduction, and you need ways to be able to still dish out that large amount of damage while dealing with that brave damage reduction. So you want to have your roster with at least a good handful of strong damage dealers coming across the board from either magic, physical, or range. So Strago can fulfill that role with what he brings to the table with his full entire kit. So if you're going to be investing in Strago, very flexible character, very good damage. He is there to deal as much damage as possible. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about Realm, and I know that this is a bit of an interesting topic. Now, as you guys know, I made a video called Budget Lufenia Champions where I quote-unquote hyped up Realm, and the reason why I hyped up Realm is because of her budget-friendly nature in the current state of the game. She is a very powerful character that only has access to an EX realization, and as you could see, her rework and her EX realization really puts her usability much higher just by being an EX plus character alone, you know. So she's very, very good for that. She has turn shenanigans. She is also very flexible when it comes to elemental manipulation. She also batteries the party with her skills, so she's very, very strong. But you need to take a look at it this way. She is a very Lufenia viable character, but which Lufenias is she viable for? So I took her to specific Lufenias where the orb conditions are not too strict. For example, if you're going to be fighting a Lufenia that, let's say, requires ice elemental damage to keep the orb at bay, well, you could take Realm and put the Shiva summon on. So another example is, let's say, the Gal Lost Chapters Lufenia where you need earth damage. Realm works really well there. The Ultimate Bahamut, you know, Lufenia. While I know a lot of folks did take Kuja to that, I actually personally took Realm and Kuja, and it actually worked really, really well because Kuja provided the Holy Enchant, and then we had the Alexander, and then we had Realm using Sketch Summon, and then also, believe it or not, the turn shenanigans can work to her favor there because she has the Holy Enchant from Kuja, and she could just use her Sketch and just kind of mess with the turns and things like that. Now, there are Lufenias where she's just not gonna work. It's the ones where the orb requirements are a bit more aggressive, or the ones where like damage reduction is just so strong where Realm's damage is just not gonna cut it. But the thing about her that's valuable is that she is a budget-friendly character. So if you are not looking to invest in this banner entirely at all, then Realm may just be right up your alley, because what you could do is either just try to ticket for her gear, or if you have the EX tokens, just EX tokens and be done with it. But that is why she is good. She is good for specific Lufenias. To me, she's still a budget Lufenia champion, but you got to look at it in a certain context as to which Lufenias she is very, very good for. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the banner. So the banner is going to be featuring Kefka's burst weapon for the last time. In my personal opinion, I think this is the the best banner to gun for Kefka's burst if you guys are still trying to get that burst weapon, because there is some pretty good value on this banner. You got Strago's gear, who we already talked about. He's a very powerful magic damage dealer. He has a lot of flexibility. He can auto break, and he could definitely be useful for some upcoming Lufenia fights where you have to deal with, you know, having to break the enemy targets out of like a huge brave recovery. And then you have Realm, who, like we know, is a budget Lufenia champion. She's very budget friendly because she only goes up to an EX plus, and she could be very useful for very specific Lufenia fights that don't really have necessarily aggressive Lufenia orb requirements. And then afterwards, we have Ashe. At this point in time, Ashe is a little bit on the very dated side. She can paralyze with her EX ability, which is nice, but the thing is that her generic debuffs are just okay, and it's honestly kind of all over the place at this point because she's kind of like this damage dealer. I want to give you physical attack up and magic attack up sort of thing. So she's usable, but you kind of gotta carry her at this point in time of the game with, you know, some stronger characters, but she's on that banner as well. So I think the banner has a lot of value to provide. There's a very budget-friendly character that's useful for certain Lufenias, and then there's a very strong magic damage dealer who's useful for, you know, Lufenias to come with specific mechanics. So if you're looking to pull on this banner, it's a very strong banner, but if you're looking to pass because there's other banners coming out that you're looking forward to, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you're deciding just to do the free multi and then you're like, you know what, I'm just going to token Realms EX and be done with it, nothing wrong with that, okay? It's all about team party compositions, also about playing with your favorites too and things like that. So that's going to be my overall thoughts about the banner. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the boss fight. So upon the making of this video, Strago's Lost Chapter still hasn't come out yet on JP, so I can't show footage that's directly similar to what you're going to be seeing in the Chaos fight, but I can talk about it a little bit. So the boss that we're going to be fighting, they're called Fierce. It's a Kaiser Behemoth variant. So if you guys are familiar with the Kaiser Behemoth, that boss first debuted on the Act 2 Chapter 1. It's that behemoth that switches from quadrupedal state to bipedal state. So the thing with this is that there's actually going to be two of them, so it's a little bit more troublesome to deal with two of them. And the mechanic that you got to watch out for is that while they're in their quadrupedal state, they're going to use this attack called Flame Wave. After they use this, they're going to gain this aura, okay? I think it's a blue aura, and they're going to be in this enhanced state in quadrupedal state. And what the enhanced state does is, in the Chaos version of this fight, they're going to absorb physical damage, and they're also going to absorb fire, wind, water, and dark elements. So the only way that you could break them out of this state is to just break them. So this is why Strago is very good for that, or characters who actually have some sort of a mechanic to just auto break a target. So when they in their quadrupedal state, they use Flame Wave. Just be careful because they are going to absorb those particular type of attacks. Now, when they're in their bipedal state, they're going to use an attack called Terra Force. And just like how they did in their quadrupedal state, after they use Terra Force, they're also going to be in an enhanced state in bipedal where they're going to have brave damage reduction. They're also going to absorb your party's brave and take it for themselves. And this time they're going to be resistant to magic damage. They're also going to be resistant to ice, earth, holy, and what's the other element I'm forgetting? Thunder element. So they're going to be resistant to that. So you want to just keep in mind that the way to break them out of that enhanced state is just to have an ability or a skill that can automatically break them. So off the top of my head, Strago is good for this. Kefka, who is Synergy, if you have his EX ability, has a chance to just break the targets right off the bat. Characters such as, well, Aranea can be used, but the boss is actually already resistant to range. So what I would do is, if you're going to run Aranea for that, you know, reset break to break, maybe run somebody like Raijin, because at least when they're in their bipedal stance, they only resist thunder. So then that way Raijin is providing the thunder element to Aranea, so then Aranea's damage doesn't get resisted. Other characters that could do that is Lightning is another good option for that, who could also do something like that. Vayne can with a skill 2, assuming that he shaves them down with his skill 2 while it's in its plus variant. But there's, you know, various options that you could use. You can use Sephiroth, for example. Sephiroth sets their brave to 0, and then it allows your next character to be able to break them right off the bat because their brave is set to 0. So as long as you have that, as long as you also have powerful debuffers, because you're going to want to be able to at least have like a defense down or something like that on active on these bosses. So then that way, especially when they're in their bipedal state and they have that brave damage reduction, you could try to at least, you know, get your characters to still be able to deal a decent amount of damage during that bipedal enhanced state. So there's a lot of flexibility that you could take as far as this fight goes. Now, as far as the challenge quest goes, so it's going to be relying on Ash, Kefka, Strago, Realm, and our current Lost Chapters character, which is Emperor. Strago's definitely going to be the highlight if you're going to be doing the challenge quest because of his ability to be able to just automatically break targets either with skill 2 or his LD. Kefka again has that. Emperor is great because if you pulled for his LD weapon, you'll have access to that better version of his HP attack +++, which allows you to trigger his traps while they're active and it doesn't dispel the trap. So you have that as an option for that. But if you don't have any of those characters built and you have to skip it, don't worry because there will be challenge quests moving forward. So you guys will always have an opportunity to do future challenge quests, especially as you start building up your roster. So that's going to be it as far as the Chaos difficulty boss fight and as far as covering Strago and Realm and the banner itself. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is move forward to that Let's Play for Strago and Realm. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright guys, so here we are with the Let's Play for Strago and Realm. I have Kefka in the party, just because why not, but he's not the star of this Let's Play. So we're going to just kind of like go over how to play Strago and Realm and kind of like what you got to look out for and things like that, especially when it comes to, you know, some of the harder content and things like that. So Realm, if you guys are unfamiliar with her, she has the sketch debuff. What this does is any targets afflicted with it get their attack reduced, and then Realm's next turn appears immediately after that enemy takes their turn, and it does not add to the turn count. So she's a turn manipulator, and she's a very powerful one at that. And then when you use Sketch, it's going to change into Sketch Plus. And what Sketch Plus does is if you attack a target with it, Realm's next turn is going to happen immediately before that enemy takes that turn. So you could see just how you can really manipulate turns with Realm to really take advantage of dealing as much damage as possible while at the same time, you know, preventing enemies from taking their turn. Now, I will say this, one thing that you really want to be careful of when you're using Realm, especially when it comes to taking her into Lufenia, is if you're going to use her for a Lufenia where the orb is very aggressive and you really need to push damage, and let's say Realm cannot fulfill the orb requirements, be careful of her turn manipulation, because while she's keeping your turn count low, she's also going to be decreasing that orb count faster, which means there's a highly likely chance that that orb is going to hit you. And remember, during the latter Lufenias, there's no way you can protect yourself from that. The earlier Lufenias, there are ways to cheese it, but the later Lufenias, there's no way to deal with that. Your party is going to wipe. So you just want to keep that in mind as far as when you're using Realm for Lufenia. So she's a turn manipulator. Make sure you have the sketch debuff on because it allows you to manipulate turns, and she also has elemental flexibility. So we're going to go ahead and use Kefka skill 1 just to get the blind and HP attack silence. Now we're going to go into Strago. The wave previous before this, which I did not record, I went ahead and actually used his LD ability because I wanted to get that 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa. That's not the only way you could get the Soul of Thamasa, which is his most important buff. You could also get it by using his C65, so that's another way that you could use it. And then another way you could get it is if you use his skill 2, he is going to automatically break targets that have an even number brave amount. And then if he breaks or attacks a broken target with this, he's also going to apply 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa. And then the last way to apply it is to use his EX ability, and that just automatically applies it, which is nice. But for the purposes of this video, I want to prolong the duration of that Soul of Thamasa, so I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the free skill usage of skill 2. And remember, this is going to trigger twice because he has Soul of Thamasa up. And as you can see right there, we went ahead and refreshed it back to 2 turns. If I had used skill 1, it would have been at a 1 turn duration remaining, but because I went with the skill 2, we get to take advantage of it for another 2 turns. Now with Kefka, we're just going to go ahead and frame his debuffs. So now we have 3 turns of blind and 3 turns of HP attack silence, which is cool. It actually helps with this demonstration here. Okay, so now with Realm, we have Sketch Plus, so we're going to go ahead and use that on A. And watch, as you can see, it places her next turn immediately before that target can take its turn. And since now we have that, you know, advantage, we're going to go ahead and just sketch again. So we have access again to Sketch Plus. All right, and then with Strago, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is use his skill 1. Since we have Soul of Thamasa active, we could take advantage of it triggering twice. And like I said earlier, during the earlier portions of the video, Strago hits hard. He has a lot of brave hits on his skills, and if you could get them to trigger twice, it's a lot of damage. So very, very good damage dealer. All right, so now with Realm, we have her very powerful EX ability at Realization. It does 12 hits, it hits twice, it just does a ton of damage, and to top it off, she reapplies the Sketch debuff, which is where we want what we want Realm to be doing in the first place. So now we're gonna go ahead and use her Sketch again, her Sketch Plus. Placing her turn immediately before A can take its turn, and then with Kefka, let's just go ahead and use Light of Judgment. All right, and then let's just go ahead. We're gonna do this. We're just gonna go ahead and Brave Attack plus with Realm, so we can give some Brave to our party. Because B is going to go into its Enraged state. Okay, so because we know B canceled out or cleansed all of its debuffs, which is something that you're going to be coming across a lot in Lufenia. So that's one of the issues that Realm has to deal with is, you know, enemies that could do that. It gets a little annoying, but we're just going to go ahead and reapply it for this sake. Okay, and then with Strago, let's see what we got here. So we have some options here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, just for the purposes of the video, let's see is C65. We're going to go ahead and get that 2-turn Soul of Thamasa so we could take advantage of it more. And we also get that attack up for 3 turns. And we're now going to go into his Chain Spell command, which is his HP attack command that triggers twice. So that's one way that you could actually prolong his uses, because Strago does not have a lot of skill uses. So even if he does get the free skill uses off of after using his LD, his longevity is still not as good as some other DPSers. So you want to keep that in mind. Definitely you want to run him with a battery, so then that way you could rely more so on his HP attack commands, and then only really have to rely on his skills if you want to get that auto break from skill 2, or if you want to be able to refresh his buff. So Kefka, let's just go ahead and use his Havoc Wing. Right, he's gonna get another turn because it's Kefka. He's a really fast character. All right, so Realm here is going to be, you know what, B is gonna go, so we know B can actually kill her. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is do this. We'll use her Sketch Plus, so then that way her next turn comes right before. So then that way we get to see Strago's EX ability. So his EX ability also gives him Soul of Thamasa, which is really cool. And it's going to trigger twice because we have Soul of Thamasa up. So as you can see, honestly, Strago's pretty straightforward. You just got to understand that you want to keep his Soul of Thamasa up, and then also keep in mind the turn duration on his other 2 buffs. They're at 6, so it's not too long, so you want to make sure that he has those active. If you're going to use him with somebody that provides a lot of framed buffs, for example, you want to be mindful that his Soul of Thamasa still has room to be able to activate, because that's what really keeps his damage going if you're going to be building a party around him. And then with Realm, turn manipulation is like her thing. It's her gimmick. She also has elemental flexibility. Again, she is very good for those early Lufenias where the orb condition is not nearly as strict and aggressive. But later on, if you're going to be taking her to some of the earlier Lufenia fights, she can work, but her damage will obviously start to scale because later Lufenias will have that brave damage reduction. They're going to have higher HP thresholds, and you definitely want to be mindful if you're going to be bringing her to some of those other ones on which characters are going to be supporting her from there. But this is going to go ahead and conclude my Let's Play and the remaining of this video for the upcoming Strago event and Realms rework. Thank you guys again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Stay tuned for the next video. Mahal, guys.